protect mitzvahs, the serious nefesh, kalik the chamura, and to say that all of a sudden it just disappeared the mitzvah, something that needs a hasber. We saw that there was many gzeiros over the years, starting from recorded in history from Julius Caesar, which was 100 years before the time of the Churban Abayis, and so on. And as it went on, they kept on making these gzeiros. As a matter of fact, it's even in their it's called the Codex Justinian, and that's their laws, their Lahavdil of Abdullah, their Shulchan Aruch. There's a clear ban over there on using these colors that are Malchus Dike, royal Dike Begadim, and on the penalty of death. And that was Pshat the Gemara. The Gemara says that there was a zug that was bought from Rekes, Uviyadeim, things that were produced in Luz, which the Gemara says, Ma'nir Techeles, Tofsi Nesher. The Gemara says they were stopped by soldiers called Nesher, which they explained that it means the Murex. It means that there was the Romans that took it away, and since there was a gzeira against producing dyes from the Murex, they were stopped, and they were in a matzvah sakana. The word nesher, they say, is very mistaber to be that it's the Romans that stopped them. The Ben Yoyada, the first over there in the Gemara says that the nesher is the Romans. The Roman soldiers stopped them. No taka there gzeira, it's the Roman gzeira. The Baratzchias over there, Taka says also, he says when it says nesher, it means the Romans. The Romans had their flag, he says, had on it an eagle, which is a nesher. Also the Pasuk says in Devarim by the Klolos and Kisavoy, it says that Kais over there, it says, Kasher Yida ha-nesher, like a nesher swoops down and causes tsaris. The Ramban over there says that this nesher is the tuf of the Romans, where they're being persecuted by the Romans in the time of the Ma'asheni. So clearly they say, you see that nesher is a reference to the Romans, and the gzeiros of the Romans is clearly documented in the history books, and so therefore it all fits in, and it stims, it's beautiful. How the Techeles just disappeared suddenly, and it was roughly at the same time. The timeline is basically fits in. Now, besides the fact that this is not a riot, so when you say a riot, this is not a riot. This is a very heartwarming. It's exciting, and it makes things fit in nicely. But a riot, it definitely is not in as far as riot is concerned. Fits in. It maybe explains how things happen. Maybe. L'maisa is this is called ignoring Rashi for number one. Rashi clearly over there in the Gemara says that this nesher, tofsing nesher, has nothing to do with the Romans. Nesher is parasium, Rashi says. It's a gzeira of parasium that they made. And Kipshute, if you look through, even the Ben Yoyada who says that it was the Romans, he says that this gzeira was a gzeiras connected to mitzvahs. And they wanted to be mekayim mitzvah of Techeles Vezet Tamshu. And they said maybe it was more gzeiras, a wider spread gzeiras, but it was also on Techeles. Had nothing to do with the band that they had mitzad the Hilchas Malchus, because of Merida Malchus, because it was a royal type of a garment. That has nothing to do with it. And if you even look inside, when you look at the translation of the decrees that they made and these bans that they put on anybody who produces dye from the Murex, it's clear in the Lashon that it has nothing to do with the blue, nothing to do with the Techeles. It has everything to do with Tyrian purple, which is a purple that they produced from it, like we saw. Kipshutai, in the times of Chazal, they didn't even know how to produce blue from the Murex. And if you look over there, the Lashon is that it was purple. In fact, the purple is is a royal color. And that's the color that they asked. It had nothing to do with blue, nothing to do with tzitzis. To say that they cared, maybe could be that they didn't even care about a few strings that a person had. They cared that a person walks around with a Keser Malchus. You walk around with a beggar that's royal, purple royal. That was something that was a Merida Malchus, not blue, and not maybe I'm not sure, but maybe even a couple of strings that they wouldn't be makbid. Maybe the production they would have been makbid. It's hard to say what if they would have been makbid on a production of a color that they knew that are being used only for a few strings. The nice thing is you find, like you saw, that the Gzeiros started to have way back in the 100 years before the Churban Abayis. They find Julius Caesar. There was these decrees and these Gzeiros, and you never find that there's ever a problem that they couldn't wear tzitzis, they couldn't wear techeles, and they couldn't wear the Kohen Gadol couldn't wear the Big Day Kahuna because it had in them techeles. You don't find ever that there was ever an issue with these because of these Gzeiros. And to say that got stronger as it went on, and then 500 years later, finally it disappeared. And what happened for the first 500 years of Gzeiros? They have Gzeir after Gzeir after Gzeir from one Melech and one Caesar to one king, and nothing ever happened. And then in the times of Robert, as you find that maybe it wasn't, then a few hundred years after that, it just disappeared. As far as how it got disappeared, how we got lost, I mean, that's obviously not necessarily such a shlarakash. We find that many things, as far as Klal Yisrael were concerned, I mean, disappeared. We're not sure. The Avara, so many different Avaras, even in the Sardim themselves, where they went, there's so many different Avaras and how to pronounce things, and you find many things that over time, and during Milchomis, and during Goliath, these things just got forgotten. The Aseres HaShvatim disappeared. 9/10 of Klal Yisrael, 8/10 of Klal Yisrael disappeared. They never were found. The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted them to be nignaz. He wanted them to disappear. That was the Haftarah. He said they're going to be not part of Klal Yisrael. That's the Rebbeinu Shalom has his ways of doing things, and that's not what happened. I mean, even in the Techeles itself, you find that the Radziner, 130 years ago, had the process produced thousands and tens of thousands. For years he was producing Techeles. Came along the Milchama, that was it. They knew what fish it was. They knew it was the cuttlefish. They knew more or less what he put into it. They couldn't figure out when they came back after the Milchama. They couldn't figure out how he did it. They couldn't reproduce it. They had one way to reproduce it. It was a different way that they know for sure that he did it. Then they brought it to his son. Eventually they found, Rabbi Herzog found, he had a correspondence, and he found the way that they did it. Otherwise the Taka would have been lost. We're talking about from a couple of years to another couple of years. The answer is because the dyeing process wasn't everybody did it. There was dyeing houses, and eventually when they went to Galus and they went to Milchamas, and these things happen. These things do happen. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom, when Chazal say, the Medrash says that the Techeles was nignaz, whether you hold that nignaz means that it's nignaz and it will never come back, or whether you hold that the Rebbeinu Shalom was going to it for a tkufa until later on, you could be fine. The Rebbeinu Shalom Vaistos wanted a nignaz vihima, and when the Rebbeinu Shalom wants something to be nignaz, he finds his ways to be going as them. The Luz, the city of Luz, we saw the Rebbeinu Shalom didn't want Sancheir to find it. He didn't want the Nebuchadnezzar to find it. He didn't want sort of the Malach HaMavis to find it. And he didn't want also the Techeles was produced in Luz. It was one of these interesting things that the Rebbeinu Shalom decided that this Techeles which is produced in Luz is going to be nignaz. And when the Rebbeinu Shalom decides that it's nignaz, it's nignaz. It does not have anything necessarily to do with the Roman Gzeira, which Taka was during those about 500 years, but it started from year one. Lav Dafka had anything to do with that, the fact that we don't have Techeles today. And so therefore it might be a nice, interesting type of a fit into how it is, but it's Lav Dafka Muchach whatsoever.